what's up, folks? Welcome back to another edition of The Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, but also joined by, you know him, the man, the myth, the legend. He's the coach, former high school football coach at Rotan, Brownwood, Belton, Burnett. Also was a college football player for Abilene Christian. Also coached there in multiple stints. Coached on the University of Texas staff for multiple different coaches for 5 different seasons. He's done it all. Also, you can find his work over at ShipleyRanches.com. It's Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, doing good. How y'all doing?
Doing great, Coach. Doing great. Happy to be here once again. CJ, what's going on, brother? How's your weekend? How was your weekend?
Hey, it was good. And then I logged in this morning, Rod. Me and Jerry filmed a video this morning for Talking Ball, and I had to find the nearest hat. I was getting dragged a little bit. So aside from that, I'm doing very well.
Hold up, man. Hold up. Why are they giving you the business? What happened? I must have missed it. I got to go back and check it out.
I guess folks aren't happy with their Mondays. I don't know, but we're rocking the hat from now on. That's for sure.
No doubt. Yeah, people are not happy about it Mondays. But on this Monday, Longhorn fans should be happy. They should be giddy because we're closer and closer to the Texas spring game. So we'll talk a little bit about our expectations for the Texas spring game coming up this weekend. We'll also get into the big news. The transfer portal opens officially for the spring. The spring portal opens officially tomorrow, I believe. But we already have news of a Longhorn expected to hit the transfer portal when it opened. We'll talk about other attrition that may be expected on the 40 acres in terms of what positions you could see some of that attrition happening, other guys hopping into the portal, and maybe the Longhorns will be looking to make another acquisition in the transfer portal. We'll talk about that. I mean, CJ's got you a recruiting nugget for you or two coming up a little bit later on. We'll also get to Scrimmage, that second scrimmage. We'll get to Scrimmage reports, news, notes, and nuggets. A lot of reports coming out of that scrimmage. I'm happy about a few things coming out of the scrimmage that I want to bring up. So we'll talk about that. The Longhorns' last scrimmage before the actual spring game. And there are some Vegas lines. There are Vegas lines for every damn thing. There are some Vegas lines specifically for where Longhorns were, a lot of different players, but specifically we're talking about the Longhorns, where they'll be drafted and what number they'll be drafted. I was drafted 123rd overall. You never forget that number you're drafted. So we'll talk about where these guys potentially could be drafted because Vegas has already put out their odds. And we'll see if my man CJ will willing to take those odds. We'll get into that coming up on the show. And, of course, all your questions, hit them up. You can hit us up with your questions. The super chats, they jump to the front of the line. They'll interrupt the show, and we appreciate all you guys' participation as always. That's what makes this community, this family of ours. That's what makes it unique. So bring on the questions. We'll answer as many of them as we can in the hour or so that we're here on the show. First off, let's start with the big news, CJ. In the transfer portal, which opens officially tomorrow. I believe it'll be April 16th through the 30th. There'll be the transfer window. The spring portal opens up. Peyton Kirkland, reportedly, the offensive lineman for Texas, is expected to hit the transfer portal. That was reported earlier today. That was one of the positions we thought that Texas was going to see some attrition, which everybody sees. It's almost natural these days in the transfer portal era that they were going to see that O-line because we hadn't seen really any attrition at O-line, and they've been stockpiling so much talent there. And I believe, what are you at? How many scholarship O-linemen are they at? 16 now, somewhere around there?
17, yeah. So
Wow.
Still in the high teens there, even with Peyton Kirkland's announcement to enter the NCAA transfer portal. Listen, this was one I think a lot of folks expected behind the scenes. Kirkland, a member of the 2023 class, I got that one correct this time, I promise. He is a guy who came in right around 370, 375, worked down about 365 pounds at the moment, yet he got dinged up a year ago. He was battling a knee injury late in the 2023 season. As a result, and Rod, Coach, y'all know it, at that weight, when your knees or one of your wheels aren't working well, it's hard to get back up to speed very quickly. And it's been very unfortunate. It's been a long road for recovery for Peyton Kirkland, making sure that he's back up 100%. He's suited up for the spring this year. But, of course, when you still have that much weight, that relies on cutting and strength and explosivity, it's hard to get back to. So he's been used a lot this spring on the backfield with the training staff, getting one-on-one time, trying to get back up 100%. Not necessarily at that point just yet. So best move for me right now with Peyton Kirkland is seeing a move back home, getting him closer to Florida. He's from Orlando. That's a spot where Texas has had success in the past recruiting. I think that's exactly where he'll end up now that he is back in the portal. But credit to him. Good luck to him as well, because it's not an easy thing to do, is packing things up after a year and getting back home. So talented player. Hope he recovers 100%. He finds a place that will get him back on the field.
Yeah, but no surprise. I remember we had this discussion earlier about what positions where we expected attrition, guys potentially a look to the portal, and O-line was one of them. That was the first one that I believe we discussed. Coach, do you think we'll see what other positions potentially could see that where Texas is stockpiling just a lot of talent, and there just may not be enough opportunity for guys, enough pathway to play for some guys? I don't necessarily think it's a negative thing at all. Whether it could be an injury. Some guys have a different journey than others. Any position that you think other than O-line, because I think O-line could end up seeing potentially a little bit more attrition. Any position you think could also see some guys look to the portal? Not specific guys, just the position, because I know we don't want to talk about players and what they're thinking. Yeah.
I think we all expected this with the offensive line. And I don't know that there's a group that has the depth that they have, the numbers that they have. Yeah. But if I had to guess, I would say wide receivers, because we have some good returning kids, Jonte and others, but we have so many big name guys that transferred in under the portal. So, it could be a possibility that some of these younger guys go, man, well, I'm not going to get on the field right now, or B, I'm not good enough to get on the field with these cats. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the two, and that's not just, obviously a receiver, although specifically receiver, we've got, as we've talked about, plethora of talent there. And I could see where some of those guys might get a little bit discouraged. It's easier to get discouraged when you're from Florida or somewhere, halfway across the continent, But anyway, good luck to that young man. But I don't think there's any way he'll be the last one.
I would love to see I would love to see a breakdown in the study, and I know they can do it because I know they have the resources now. I would love to see a study and a breakdown of guys who hit the portal who, number one, end up with the school that finished second in their recruiting. Right, because that's why it matters now to finish second in recruiting. Back in the day, it didn't. It was like just kind of a consolation prize. Now, finish second in recruiting, hey, that's a 50% chance that guy's hitting the transfer portal. You know who he's going to look to? That school that was second in his recruiting and go, you know what? I think I might have made the wrong decision. I hope that coach hits me up. You know what I mean? I'm going to get into the transfer portal. I'll find a way to connect with him, talk to a player on that roster, whatever it may be. And how many go home initially to where they were born or to where they played their high school ball? Because I was even looking at you go look at the guys that Texas brought in, the recruits that Rodney Terry just brought in via the transfer portal, and all of them are like fifth-year seniors, but a lot of ties to Texas. I think the Julian Larry kid was a Frisco native. Jason Kent, although Chicago kid, I believe he was born in Austin. They end up coming kind of back home, a lot of them, and I wonder, just like you said, if you're in the transfer portal, this young man, Florida might be where he ends up going. CJ, you mentioned that too. And I just wonder how often that happens, because it does seem like it happens often where they come back. Hell, Isaiah Bond, transfer portal, comes back to the state where he's from, where he played his high school. I think that happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah, especially.
Sorry, AD Thomas. I'm AD Mitchell. I'm not excited. AD Mitchell is who I meant. I apologize. Through transfer.
Yeah. Hey, Brett even mentioned, Andrew Makuba coming back home, an Austin native here. Matthew Golden, a guy that Texas recruited after, he ended up at Houston coming out of high school. Trey Moore from the San Antonio area. A lot of guys that we're seeing return home, or as you mentioned, a guy that in which Texas finished just a smidge behind coming out of high school, now still in a good position. And certainly it helps now that Texas is able to say, yeah, we have a really good quarterback returning. We have a great offensive line. Oh, yeah, we also had a pretty successful 2023 season, and we can build upon that while going into the best football conference in America. A lot of things are adding up right now, and it's certainly making things very desirable for recruits who enter the portal from this area to come back home and play for a team that seemingly has a lot figured out at the moment.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. Texas is benefiting from the transfer portal in all their sports, and that should be the case. All right, talent acquisition these days is transfer portal, but also you got to go back to your basic of the traditional recruiting. And Sark is still big on organically building this roster through traditional recruiting. CJ, you got any updates in the recruiting realm for the folks out there? I know they're always interested in your nuggets of info.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit over the weekend. Of course, Texas hosted a number of recruits for the second scrimmage of the spring. A number of them 2026. Kyle Flood had really had a busy day with Toa Katoa, Brett Colliget, even Felix Ojo on campus. A busy day for him, but in the 2025 day as well, a name to watch very closely is Jackson Christian, the offensive lineman out of Port Neches Groves, a state champion in 2023, a guy that finished up a runner-up in 2022 as well. So has been around in the state championship run there, knows what it takes to be a part of a good program. We talked to him Saturday, a very serious guy. You know, he's a guy that he comes off all business to me whenever you speak to him about football, about family, about personal matters. I mean, just a guy that gets it. And so he will be returning to campus tomorrow to take part in another Texas spring practice. That'll be 2 straight spring practices that he will watch in person in Austin, which, as y'all know, that drive back to the Golden Triangle is not the quickest thing. So for him to do that shows a lot of interest. There's a lot of reciprocated interest, I should say, on both sides, and something that I think a lot of folks should be keeping a close eye on because, again, you know, 2 straight practices coming in for a visit, you know, it gives you a good indication of how much interest is there on the part of Jackson Christian and the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, no, it's good update there, CJ. We appreciate it. Any questions you guys have? We know we already got a couple. Please hit us up. We'll answer those questions a little bit later on in the show. We were talking about the transfer portal, and I want to get this story out there and get you guys' thoughts on it because we've been hearing a lot about Bill Norton, I believe is his name. He is a potential transfer. Now, transfer portal opens up officially tomorrow, but he is an Arizona defensive lineman. Former 4-star Arizona defensive lineman who I believe is transferred from Arizona from Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, and is now signed with the Georgia Bulldogs initially in 2018, and now he's viewed as a guy that could potentially have an NFL future, but he is looking for a new home or expected to hit the transfer portal. He's an interior defensive lineman. Bill Norton obviously has a background and has ties to Johnny Nansen, the co-defensive coordinator, now linebackers coach, because he was once the defensive coordinator there at Arizona. Considering the loss of T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy and the uncertainty on the defensive line, and we'll talk about the scrimmage and what the interior defensive line did in that scrimmage potentially that may be reasons to be optimistic about what's happening there, but still you want as many options, many possible solutions as possible. CJ, coach, you guys think Bill Norton could be a guy that Texas should pursue as an option to bring in more reinforcements on the interior D line?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid fit. A guy that started a lot of games last year in the top 25 rushing defense. Rod, he played 48% of his snaps last year over the A gap. So a guy that fits right over the ball, something that Texas doesn't have a lot of at the moment on the roster, despite having a lot of bodies in that room. A lot of the 3 technique by trade, I would say, are in that room at the moment. 170 snaps over the A, 179 snaps over the B a year ago. Of course, played right next to Tiasavea as well. You go watch that Oklahoma game. The 2 of them are very active, and they're very difficult to move backward. They're not making always all the plays in the running game, but Coach, you know how important it is when these guys sit up there and just set their feet in the dirt and don't get moved backward. That allows guys like Anthony Hill and David Benda to run up the field and make those plays at the line of scrimmage. Right now, I think Texas is in a good spot for him. I think Texas will pursue him. And, of course, there is a gap right now at the A gap for the Longhorns to fill a void with a potential body or 2 when the portal officially opens tomorrow.
Yeah, Coach. What Texas having a defense that has a vulnerable spot right there in the interior defense. I think they're going to be strong on the edges. We'll talk about some of these scrimmage reports. There's always, it seems to be, a really, I think really good things coming out of spring and out of these scrimmages about what's happening on the edges. I expect that to be a strength. We talked about Anthony Hill, secondary. This is a team that's going to be, I think, at its core, they're going to have their assets in the back seven going forward and on the edges. Is it possible to have a great defense with just, an average to above average interior D-line, but be superior and actually be elite in some other areas potentially?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, well, first of all, we're obviously spoiled, with the line play we've had inside with Big T-Sweat in there. But, I think it's you kind of hold out hope a little bit for another transfer portal guy who could fit that bill. But I certainly think we have guys that are serviceable. And, of course, it's certainly going to put more pressure on the inside backers, because you're not necessarily going to have guys kept off of you as they're coming off the ball if we don't have, the big plug in there in the A gap. But I think you can certainly get guys, and I think we do have guys that are serviceable.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. As long as it's not a weakness, I think they'll be okay. The problem is if teams are able to run inside on Texas with the gap in the power schemes. And one of the reports, coming out of the scrimmage was that the Texas run game looked really good. And of course, I believe one of the reasons they may have looked really good is because Texas doesn't have they don't have that force in the interior. They really don't have that rock of Gibraltar in there. That's as CJ's talking about, and that A gap that can really hold point for them and even penetrate, reset the line of scrimmage. So if there's any hole on the roster, and maybe it's not a hole, maybe it's just a concern, it would be the interior D line. Maybe Bill Norton just could be another option for them. They're going to have to money ball that position. That's going to be something at the money ball. Just throw a lot of different bodies at it and see what combinations work best for you. And that's going to be something I think they coach up all season long. Even if they bring in a guy, it's not, you're not going to get a war daddy in the transfer portal. That's not happening. You're going to get a player who can provide you, serviceable reps, capable reps, but I don't know if you'll get a game changer. Bill Norton may be the best you can get. We thought Bear Alexander would be that guy. He may have been possibly one of the best options you can get. So hopefully Texas will be pursuing Bill Norton of Arizona. And if they do pursue him, hopefully they get him. All right. I want to get into some scrimmage and the reports here. CJ, I know you got a bunch of good ones. We'll also talk about draft position lines a little bit later on in the show, and most what we expect to be the most outstanding performers at every position coming up in the spring game, and with your questions too. So please hit us up with the questions. Before we do that, though, I do want to thank our fantastic sponsors, as we have two great sponsors. But first, I want to thank our good friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Flat Creek just won 11 awards in 30 days, including double Gold Grand Reserve and Texas Grand Reserve at the Houston Rodeo. Flat Creek Estate Winery is raking in the awards, and it's just a few minutes from the heart of Austin. Select bottles of the wines by Flat Creek Estate are now available at your local specs, so now you can get a taste of what they're all about. Flat Creek Estate is also a gorgeous venue hosting events for the entire family all spring. Check out their website for wine tastings, chef dinners, and even make a reservation to visit the property for Mother's Day coming up. Eat, drink, and be awesome at Flat Creek Estate. For more information, please visit flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com for more information. As a matter of fact, I'll be visiting Flat Creek Estate this week coming up. I'm going to actually go out there. Plans are being made so we can get out there to see Flat Creek up close and personal. We'll give you guys a personal review when I get back. So I'm looking forward to that, though. So Flat Creek, go check it out at flatcreekestate.com. Also, want to thank our good friends over at the Autograph app. Now, folks, we're all pumped for the game in Ann Arbor, as everyone should be. Would you like a chance to win $4 tickets to the Big House this fall against Michigan in honor of our 4 national championships, hopefully 5 coming up? These tickets are retailing at $600+. And if you want to get them at bargain basement cheap prices, you just listen up. Our friends over at Autograph are dropping a pair of tickets on April 18th at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time in their app. All you need to do is download the app and refer one friend successfully from until April 18th. You have until 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, April 18th, to refer a friend. And if you refer a friend successfully, boom, you're eligible to get these. Well, they're not free tickets. They're damn near free. $4 tickets to the Michigan game. So for those that are new, Autograph is where real Longhorn fans get unreal rewards by bringing fan content and communities into one place. Autograph is the first app that recognizes and rewards fans, turning their passion into access and experiences. Co-founded by Tom Brady on the belief that devotion should be rewarded and the future of fandom belongs to the fans. Scan to download the free Autograph app in the Apple App Store and use the referral code ONTexas. That's the referral code ONTexas. Join us and see where your fandom takes you, hopefully Ann Arbor this fall, for $4 a ticket. That'd be a beautiful thing. Thank you to the Autograph app. All right, let's get to some spring practice discussion, gentlemen. The scrimmage specifically, the second scrimmage, and it was the last scrimmage before the actual spring game. So there's a lot on the line. This is one of those kind of major exams, if you will, in spring where the coaches are evaluating. Coach, how much are you as a coach going to put into a scrimmage during the spring in a competition for the players in terms of competition for a specific position? How much weight do you put into those scrimmages as opposed to the actual spring game?
Well, I would put an awful lot, but as they always say, you practice like you play like you practice, I guess. But I think that's a really good question, but I think it's something that in a scrimmage situation, they may be able to go through the drills and do things one-on-one effectively, but when it comes game time and you've got 11 people out there on your side of the ball, how are you going to respond then? I think it's everything right now. I think these scrimmages, of course, daily steps can be made in practice. But the scrimmage is I think what's going to hold the weightier of substance to the coach. That's when it's got to be competitive. It's got to be when you're 11 on 11 and you got a back behind you or defensive lineman or whatever. You got them in a situation that's as game-like as you can get.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that coaches is putting a lot in terms of the evaluation in the scrimmage, even more so maybe than the spring game itself, which we'll also talk about. CJ, what report coming out of that second scrimmage really excited you the most, intrigued you the most? I got mine. Which one to you you thought was the most interesting?
Yeah, I think there's two for me, and it's one that I think we've heard or at least seen a lot of battles about dating back to high school. One, I think Malik Muhammad right now is your best defensive back on the team, and that's been a continual, steady incline from what we've heard to begin the spring into now, and it seems like every time – behind the scenes, the scrimmages, the day-to-day practices, those conversations arise. That's been the name we've heard about. We had another interception in the scrimmage this weekend of Arch Manning. It just feels to me that he has a knack for being around the football and making plays to put the ball on the ground or come away with it in his own hands. So right now, I think that jump that we expect with a guy like Derek Williams in the back end, it's worth mentioning Manny Muhammad as well, because he had a good freshman year. He wasn't on the field as often as Derek Williams, but he was a guy that went on the field. I thought he was in position to make plays more often than not. Now that he's getting more comfortable and he's getting those spring reps more and more, I think he's going to make a massive leap in 2023. Or 2024, excuse me. He's the guy I'm really excited about. On the opposite side of the ball, Jonte Cook, who had the first touchdown of the day. Rod, we've talked about in the past. I want to hear more about Jonte Cook. We've heard a lot about Isaiah Bond. We've heard a lot about the freshman Ryan Wingo. Matthew Golden's made some noise. Lost in that shuffle, I would say, has been Jonte this spring. Right now, I was told that scrimmage, that practice that Jonte had on Saturday was the best that he's looked this spring. And I love that because we've talked about, he's kind of that older incumbent of the group. He's not old, only 8 receptions a year ago, but he knows what it's like to be with Quinn Ewers and in Steve Sarkisian's offense. He's running with the first unit right now. He had a big day Saturday. Right now it's building up again for Jonte to put on another big show in a spring game in which we saw him have a big time touchdown a year ago. So those two guys on both sides of the ball, I'm really excited about. Both of them are expected to take big leaps as sophomores now. and the spring game will be a good opportunity to showcase those steps that they've taken towards going to the SEC.
Yeah, that's Malik Muhammad report is really promising. I mean, I've said before, he's the best ball hawk in the secondary. Coach, he's a havoc-minded defender. Even in the Washington game where Texas DBs are getting worked a little bit against NFL wide receivers with an NFL quarterback and one of the most sophisticated passing systems out there. He's the only one that nearly made a play on the football. He almost had his hands on the football. It ended up being a touchdown, but still, that's the way he's programmed as a player. And I'm hearing now that he's making more plays on the football. I mean, had an injury too during the spring, so he's a little bit behind. Could even be even more ahead of schedule. Malik Muhammad, if we believe he's the best player in the secondary right now, he's the best. Let's say he's the best cornerback prospect for Texas since when?
Ooh.
Since, if he is that good.
How far do you want to go back, Coach? You know this one.
Most
recent. If he's that good,
go back and find somebody.
If he's that good, yeah, Coach, is he that good? Are we going way back? All right, we're gonna go back before Chris Boyd and that group, right? So he's better than Chris Boyd as a prospect. I believe he is. But I'm just making sure we're all on the same page.
I was gonna say the best we've seen since Holton Hill, Chris Boyd, that tandem, of course.
Holton Hill had his head on straight, guys.
If he did, he would have been in that conversation, Rod.
He would have been.
That guy was unreal for that time that he was on the campus with the Longhorns. But if you want to talk about the ceiling, Manny Muhammad right now, I think, is a little bit further ahead than where we saw Chris Boyd or Holton Hill in their development. Of course, Chris, I think, had a tough start to his tenure as a Longhorn.
Yeah.
He did turn into a reliable cornerback one that you could throw out in an island and say, all right, like this half of the field is going to be yours. He got tested often, but he was that guy that I think at some points as a defensive coordinator, you could rely on him to make the big time plays. In terms of ceiling, though, I think you got to go a long way back. I think.
Yeah. You went long way.
Hey.
Okay, yeah, Coach, step in there.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
I mean, I hate to sound like Joe Biden.
Come on.
Come on, man. I mean, let's don't crown him, first round draft pick. Let's don't put him in Michael Griffin and those guys. I mean, we were cussing him last season. We were cussing him last season more than we were praising him, I think. Am I right?
No, I will say this because I think what CJ's looking at is the ceiling because he was a freshman, and then where he could, if he does take the leap. I'll agree with Coach. So we ain't going back to mid 2000s. We ain't got to go that far.
He's got to prove it before I jump on that one. I've seen it too many times, man.
I would say,
but he does have the potential. He does, but
in terms of
and I'm a big fan. You guys know I'm a big fan of his.
I'm a huge fan of him.
Yeah.
I would like somebody to throw out there that question because it is an interesting question. I agree with CJ. I love his upside. Best cornerback prospect since. So CJ, give me one. Are we talking about Aaron Williams? Are we going like?
Listen. I'll stop at Holton Hill because I don't think Texas has had that guy.
Okay, I'll go with that.
That's not bad.
But here's what I like about Manny Muhammad and something I think that can separate him from even that group. Rod, you talked about his instincts with the ball in the air. We saw it at South Oak Cliff in high school. He had the big interception in the state title game. He's had an interception at this level. When the ball's in the air, he seems to play it. And this spring, all we've heard about him doing is putting the ball on the ground with a PBU or coming with the ball in his own hands. Texas, we know they've had their issues with DBs turning around, finding the ball in the air, fighting through the hands, playing the ball, whatever. That's not been an issue with Malik Muhammad since he's arrived on campus. The other thing that I'd give Malik Muhammad the edge up here is this guy will hit you. He's not a big dude, but he's going to come down the field and he will hit you. His big first tackle a year ago was against a 6'5", 260-pound tight end in which that guy ended up on his rear. That you don't see that from freshman cornerbacks, that desire to go hit folks. That's not a thing that I think is innate for a lot of defensive backs because they're similar to wide receivers. They don't necessarily want to hit somebody unless they absolutely have to. That's not the case with Malik Muhammad. You have that physicality, which was always been a part of his game, and I think can give you an extra edge when you compare him to some of those guys that we've seen come through the doors of the Texas cornerback room in the past. So
no,
I'll stop with Holton Hill though.
No, listen, there are a lot of folks out here because they're just as high on Manny as we are. Ryan says, "Coach, stop hating on Manny." Yeah.
Hey, I love Manny. I think Manny's going to be a really good player, but I don't know that he's done enough on the field in 14 games last season. I say let's let him progress.
Champ Bailey 3 here says Quandre Diggs. Think about Quandre wasn't necessarily highly touted or a highly ranked and how he wasn't
totally different player. Totally different player.
So the thing about Quandre is Quandre came in upset about the fact that he was disrespected. Remember, Quandre was a late ad, and the controversy was because he was family. Hell, I remember Quandre on campus when he was a little kid because he was Quinn Jammer's little brother. That they didn't. Texas wasn't offering him. They should have, everybody was like, man, why didn't Texas just offer him early considering his family? They actually offered him pretty late. He felt disrespected by that. So he came in he came in talking trash to his own team actually that season as a freshman because he was literally upset with the coaching staff for offering him so late because all he wanted to do was go to Texas. That was always his dream school. So he was going to practice. I'm not BSing. He was hitting guys in practice, laying haymakers on players in practice, and then turning around to the coaches saying, y'all offered him and not me. Like he was, I'm not making that up. That is a true story. Quandre was on a mission. Quandre's always built like that. So Quandre, I don't know if he had the ceiling. He just always was a guy that was going to play on Sundays. But I don't know if his ceiling was that high. That's always been the knock on him.
You're right. You're right. I also think the fact that he's wonder what he measured at the combine.
I think he was 5'9".
Yeah,
which shocked me because he looked shorter than me, and I measured it at 5'8". I'm like, Quandre, you're not taller than me. I don't understand what's going on with the combine these days. Kyler Murray added like 2 inches. Some weird's happening at the combine since I went. They add inches, and I'll take that every day.
Yeah, more times than not, it's adding the weight with the weights in your socks or whatever. You hide them up in your girdle. You get away with that, but the inches, I don't know how you get away with that.
You can't get away with that. Quandre is one of my favorite dudes, man. He and Jackson came in together as freshmen.
Oh yeah,
and you're right, man. I've always loved players that come in play with a chip on their shoulder, and I don't care what the chip is. I don't care if you thought you were disrespected, if people told you couldn't play because you're 5'8", 5'9", whatever it is. You only got a scholarship because your brother was a great UT legend. I mean,
yeah.
But the dude is still proving people wrong today.
Yeah, he is. Today. Texans, y'all can use them. Sign them up. I'll take them as a Houston Texans fan. How about this? David Keith Williams said, I think Manny might be as good as Aaron Ross by the time he is a junior. And Ryan Nelson said Jammer. He went back to Quentin Jammer. Ooh, I don't know. I think Manny's that good. Quentin Jammer was like a top 10 pick. Quinn Jammer was like, I believe he was like 8th or 9th, something like that. Quinn Jammer was
here's one thing, and Coach, this is going to make you want to, turn off the monitor, throw something, I swear. But us recruiting guys who follow it so closely, if there's one reason to believe that the ceiling is not even close to being touched is, hey, Malik Muhammad was the highest rated cornerback coming out of high school Texas has had since Curtis Brown in 2007. He's the second highest cornerback recruit Texas has had signed since all of this began. So there's reason, obviously, I think he had a very solid first year.
I do too.
I don't think we're even close to the ceiling. And so I could see the argument being made for him to have, at least a 2025 season, if we're looking pretty far down the road, this could be a guy that could really make some noise and be, one of those highest rated, Longhorn cornerbacks drafted in quite a while.
Curtis Brown was round 3 pick.
I've seen so many freshmen, come in like that. Caden Stearns had a great freshman year, and he kind of tailed off after that. Of course, he blamed it on the coaches, but he did. He came out and blamed it on his coaches. But anyway, I think I just want to wait and see it myself. I know he's got it all. He's got the DNA. He's got everything. But I just need to see it this next season. We need to see a big step. Not that it was not that he had a bad year, but I just have a very high expectation, as you do, Rod, of our DBs.
I agree. That's why because Quinn Jammer was the 5th overall pick, guys. 5th overall pick at corner. So if we're talking about Manny being that good, that's a hell of a leap he's going to take this year. How about this? Let's just say he needs to, considering the schedule Texas has, and I don't think Texas is going to play a lot of elite wide receivers when you go through it. I believe, CJ, we've kind of had this hypothetical thought experiment already. He should be in the all-SEC conversation, right? If he's not at least in the all-SEC conversation this season, then maybe we pump the brakes a little bit.
I was going to say this argument's all for naught.
Yeah. If he's in all conference SEC, which is the best conference, college football conference in the country, if he's in the all SEC conversation at the end of this season, then boom, Ryan, your Quentin Jarrett comparisons, David Keith Williams, your Aaron Ross comparisons. All right, you know what? We'll throw them out there. We'll continue to entertain them. Right now, let's like, what'd you say, CJ? You gonna stop at Holden Hill and Chris Boyd?
I'll stop at the two of them. Yep.
For now, they'll just stop right there until he.
But that's
SEC.
Yeah, that's not bad though.
That's not bad. What? No, I'm not disrespecting those guys. Listen, I want. You know what? I'm gonna do it again. Now y'all didn't inspire me to do it again. I once, and I know if I do it nowadays, it would be absolute hellfire on this website. I once ranked all the greatest DBs in the history of DBU. All of them. I ranked them all. I went through, I think I did 1 through 50. I included myself. All right. I ranked myself outside the top 20. All right. That's how deep DBU is, guys. It's deep. I went and looked and I was like, I got to put myself outside. I think I was like 18 through 21. I did it like 3 years in a row. I was like 18 through 21 or 22. That's how deep it was. We got another one. Breaking news. You got a breaking news sounder?
Yep, that's it. Billy Walton is entering the NCAA transfer portal here. Appeared in 2 games, Wyoming and Baylor, a year ago. I had previously heard he looked pretty good coming off the edge this spring. The issue is, of course, Texas added a lot of pieces to the edge this year. Of course, Ethan Burke, Barron Sorrell, Justice Finkley, Jamon Tapp, all on campus at the moment. Texas goes out and adds Trey Moore from UTSA. They get 5-star Colin Simmons coming onto campus. Oh, and of course, Colin Simmons is healthy now. So that room's very crowded. This was a name I was expecting to enter the portal. This was a position I was expecting to see some attrition from. May not be done just yet. We'll see, of course. But Rod, back to your conversation. Texas is getting down to that 85 number. Right now, this is the 3rd portal entrant from the Longhorns this spring season, joining Samaje Burrell and Peyton Kirkland earlier this afternoon. Have to get down to 1 more at least for the 85 number. I still expect to see probably 4 or 5 more additional portal entrants even after Billy Walton entered right now.
Yeah, I always wonder what position you're going to see it at next. I almost feel like, it's weird because some positions they have so many young guys they brought in as reinforcements. Coach mentioned wide receiver could be one of those. I agree. You could see a receiver. You could see a DB. They brought in a lot. They brought in 5 defensive backs in this latest DB class. So you could see a DB, that's not including Makubu, comes in via the transfer portal. Maybe it's DB, but they rotate so many DBs. I think a lot of DBs see a path to play. It's all about where guys don't see a path to play. And I think this is also good roster construction for Texas, that they're just upgrading here on the roster, and they're really good players like Billy Walton, who's like, I just don't have a path to really play with Colin Simmons coming in, and then Trey Moore already in here now. Barron Sorrell, Ethan Burke are locked in. So where's my path to get to the field in the next year or so? And then maybe the young man doesn't see it. All right, so there you go. The latest breaking news. So that would make 3 Longhorns officially now in the transfer portal. You do have Samaje Burrell that went early. Peyton Kirkland we reported on, and the breaking news is Billy Walton III is the latest. All right, getting back to these, and please get in your questions. We'll hit those up a little bit later on. But getting back to the scrimmage discussion and some of these scrimmage reports. You were just talking about what you like, CJ. We talked about Malik Muhammad and went on a bit of a bit sidetrack there, talking about Malik Muhammad and his upside. I think it was a good conversation. But getting back to the scrimmage, one of the reports that I really liked coming out of the scrimmage coach was that once again, just like in the first scrimmage, and Sark even revealed in the first scrimmage that the offense won the red zone period. It won red zone at the end of practice. Defense actually, from the reports I've heard, actually had a really good scrimmage again. And you could argue maybe they won most of the scrimmage. And Sark talked about that. But Sark remarked once again that offense won the red zone period, which is situational football. Sark has implied he puts his situational drills coach at the end of practice because he wants to kind of build to a crescendo, and he wants the guys to make critical plays or make clutch plays in critical moments, I should say, those critical moments in the fourth quarter in clutch time. So he simulates that at the end of practice. And I think it's important that they're winning the red zone, first of all, because red zone offense was really bad last year, 120th in the country in touchdown percentage of red zone. But I think if it's one thing that Sark worked on all offseason, I think we can all, accurately predict it was probably red zone offense. So I'm glad to hear red zone is not a struggle early on in training camp. They may have struggled in some other areas, getting the running game going, chemistry with the wide receivers and Quinn because they're brand new. All that may be something that they've been working on and getting better throughout training camp. But it seems like red zone has not been an issue at all, and they seem to have been really effective in the red zone during the spring. That's the one theme I think I'm really liking. I wonder what Sark has found that has given them so much success, at least in spring, what we're hearing about in the red zone.
Well, that's a really good question, and who knows what it is. But you have to remember, Sark can control everything. I mean,
that's true too.
If he wants to back off, and give the defense some confidence, he can certainly do that. But
that's fair.
As we talked about prior to spring ball even starting, I think this coaching staff didn't just fall off the turnip wagon. These guys are one of the best, if not the best, offensive staffs in college football, in my opinion. And when you have a weakness, a ranking that pitiful at the end of the season, obviously you're going to go to work and try to figure it out. And I think they've probably figured out some things. Obviously, I don't know what that is. I hopefully we'll see it some at the spring game. But it sounds encouraging that they've been able to have some success doing that, considering all things being equal, and Sark is calling the game the same every scrimmage they have.
It's a good point, Coach. I didn't think about that. I hope he's not fixing it like that, just to overinflate their confidence in the red zone. I would like to think Sark has come up with his own ways to remedy their issues, but Coach makes a good point. That's why he's the coach.
All of us in high school remember that coach that was head coach that would say, "All right, run it again, coach. Don't blitz. I told you no blitz."
Exactly. And the offense goes and scores and celebrates. Like, what y'all celebrating for? Everybody knew what y'all was going to do.
Well, Rod, I mean, it has to be evened out at some point. You've been going against – I'm an offensive guy. I'm with Coach Shipley in this argument. So you're on your own here. But going up against spring ball for the last 13 practices, you've been seeing the same offensive play calls, the same signs on the sideline. What formation and what motion you're likely going to get out of a play caller scheme or whatever. So when you hear about a defense playing very well, yeah, of course, we got to tip your credit, whatever. We'll tip our caps for that. But at the same point, there's so many wrinkles that you can add as an offense here. So when I hear that the defense is looking very good early on, yeah, it's of course they're going against the same plays every day.
That's true.
But when you get down to the red zone and things get a little tight, I think you're going to, especially when you start hearing the offense is succeeding, I think you're looking at the offensive line as the difference maker more so than anything else, which is encouraging considering what we saw a year ago.
That's a good point. And the running back room we're hearing is playing really well. So Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner and Cedric Baxter too. And I'll say this though about, knowing all the plays. Didn't they say in the Sugar Bowl that Sark, instead of having like 15 to 20 plays per game on his script, he has 40 plays in his opening script, 40 plays. So, hey, he shouldn't be running out of plays, man. He should be running the same plays over and over again. He got 40 plays in his opening script. That's wow. Somebody's got to ask Sark about that again, right?
Yeah.
Because the local media didn't report that. That was like the national media thing. It was like 40 plays in his opening script. Coach, you ever heard of that 40 plays in your opening script?
Not even close.
Right? And it's like, wow. So I guess we're all off. We think the opening script is like 20 plays, and basically Sark's opening script is the whole first half. And then I guess after that is when he kind of starts to adjust and freestyle. Anyway, I remember that little anecdote. I thought that was interesting. Okay, also another nugget coming out of the scrimmage guys is that Dre Bledsoe actually played really well and showed up. And maybe, in the interior D-line, maybe that's one of those guys who can step up. But he's still not that A-gap, 0 or 1 technique you need. But still, maybe you've seen guys step up and flash and the interior D-line, but Sark needs more than guys flashing. He needs them to become a little bit more consistent. So that was a name that that also in the spring scrimmage that also stood out to me. And Jalen Gilbo is another name that I keep hearing that I like, that Jalen Gilbo stepping up and making plays. And if he does end up making plays, it gives them a lot of flexibility with what they want to do with guys like Jahdae Barron, with what they can do in the secondary manufacturing depth. So I'm happy to hear some of the same names being reiterated over and over again this spring. Shows me that some of these guys are separating, coach, that they're starting to earn the trust of the coaches. A guy like Jaden Blue, guy like Jalen Gilbo, guys who are, I think, over and over developing consistency more so than just that flash that Sark was talking about.
Yeah, no doubt, which transitions really nice into one of the things you want to talk about, and that is who are the players in the spring game that you feel like are going to really rise up, and Gilbo certainly should be one of them.
Let's do that, Coach. I like that transition. You're a natural. Let's do it. Let's talk about, and we'll also get to your questions. I see the questions piling up here, so we're going to get to those here in just a second. So keep them coming, guys. Let's talk about this position-wise. What players do we expect to be the top performers in the spring game? Because that's not always the starters. Actually, a lot of your frontline starters don't even play a lot in the spring game. That's the ultimate compliment, if you will, right? You don't need to see a lot of Quinn Ewers. You don't necessarily need to see a lot of Kelvin Banks. Those guys are proving commodities. So those guys will be out in 2 or 3 series, maybe 4 at the most. But some of these younger guys are guys who are going to step up and be the spring game stars, if you will. So who are going to be the stars that we expect to see at their positions? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Let's just start offense, then we'll work our way to the defense. At quarterback, is it as simple as Quinn's going to go out there and throw 3 consecutive touchdown passes on his 3 drives that he's in there? Or are we looking for one of the other quarterbacks to step up and be the star of the show in the spring?
Well, it sure would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, if Quinn comes out here and makes it a light, easy day, we don't need to see much more of him. Throw Arch out there, throw Trey Owens out there. Of course, I needed to mention this. We talked about guys who might stand out in the spring game. A week ago in the second scrimmage, Trey Owens found Parker Livingstone, freshman to freshman, for a 45-yard touchdown completion. So worth mentioning there as well. Heard it was a pretty nice play, nice connection on both ends, seeing at least hearing that the young guys are getting some moves, some plays going. That's encouraging right there. But in terms of what we expect, I think it'll be interesting to see how these teams are constructed. Does Sarkisian go a 1s versus 1s, 2s versus 1s? Does he, split the team up and say, hey, all right, I know I'm going to have Kelvin Banks as my left tackle, but my right tackle on the other team is going to be Cam Williams. Does he, kind of split it up that way? We saw it a year ago where it was kind of a draft, and you saw the 1s interspersed between both teams. Mm-hmm. As a result, you saw quarterbacks playing for both teams. So that'll be interesting as well. But for Quinn, certainly, I think he's a guy that you expect to have a big game. The other guy I want to watch very closely, Rod, is Trey Moore, because that's all we've heard so far is this guy is in the backfield before the ball's even snapped, before the quarterback can take his drop and find his wide receivers. He's getting pressured by Trey Moore. So that's a guy I think regardless of who he's going against, we're going to see some big-time plays this weekend.
Coach, what are your thoughts?
Well, just first of all, my thoughts in general are that this should be the time that you see guys really spread their wings. They're starting to, their old sack drops a little bit, and they're starting to really feel comfortable in the system and comfortable. And I'm even talking about our transfer portal guys who want to show the fans at Texas what they can do, and they don't know that we have some rabid fans out here that have already watched all the film on those transfer guys. We know what they can do, but they want to put on a show in front of the home crowd for the first time. So I'm looking for surprise, surprise, that talented group of receivers to really shine. Any of the portal guys, but I think you made a really good point earlier, and that is Jonte Cook has really started spreading his wings a little bit, and he probably wants to show everybody in the spring game, hey, look, everybody's been talking about these guys. What about me? So those are the guys I think offensively that I'm looking for. I'm looking for, especially maybe, I think the new guys will play a lot in that position at wide receiver. I don't think we'll see Quinn much. I don't know that we'll see CJ much. But defensively, I'm really looking, somebody, I can't remember who it was a while ago that sent in a message about LaFau being a guy who could really have a breakout game. And he's one of the guys that I was thinking about. Yeah, Ryan Nelson. Sorry, Ryan. And I think that's a great point. He's a good one. But, I keep coming back to Colin Simmons, and I'm really wanting to see this guy come through and show what he can do on as big a stage as he can have at this point, in his college career. Of course, Andrew Makuba is another guy that I'm looking for to really shine in the spring game. We want to see some big things from him.
Yeah. It's a good point too. I like what you said there though, Coach, about, on the edge there. Both of you guys have edge defenders that y'all really want to see. And I want to see the difference. We haven't had a group of edge defenders like this since Sark has been on campus. He hasn't really had high-level edge defenders, guys with NFL upside caliber edge defenders. Baron Sorrell is turning himself into that. Ethan Burke has that kind of upside. So does Colin Simmons. Trey Moore is that, that hybrid freak outside linebacker / edge defender. So I want to see how it looks. It's going to look different. Screaming off the edge, that pressure coming off the edge. So I think both of you guys are right. Just a lot of those guys. I'm interested to see the BGO. I'm going to be watching the ball get off of those guys and see what a difference it makes. And in terms of the guys that will stand out, I think, honestly, I'm glad you said that about Trey Owens, because I was going to say, I bet he gets a lot of play here. I bet him and Arch obviously get most of the reps. We don't just see most of Quinn. I'm telling you, and I said people are going to be surprised when they see him. The kid's got an arm. He's got swagger. He's competitive as a mofo, man. He is really competitive. You sit down, we talked to him several times on Texas, and he's got a competitive spirit, a competitive sickness almost, that I think that's what Sark was attracted to talking to this young man. And Sark says that, right, about his quarterbacks. He said, number one, they got to be competitive in all things. I need them to be competitive, and I need them to be natural leaders. He has those qualities, those intangibles, but man, his arm is really, really impressive. And because your wide receiving group is so deep, I don't know how they're going to do it. You're right, CJ. They could put him with the second team. They could mix and match it. Who knows? He's going to be throwing to some decent wideouts.
Yeah.
It ain't like he's going to be throwing, even if they got him with the third team, he's going to be throwing to some guys that can go, because Sark is pretty much, upgraded that room, and they're infused with so much talent. So he'll be throwing to a good group. And the only thing that may hurt him is that I'm hearing the second team O-line pass blocking wise, depending on if he's not with that first unit, they could struggle, especially if we're talking about those edges going up against the second team O-line. That could cause those quarterbacks a lot of trouble. So they better get used to knowing where the checkdowns are, knowing where the hot reads are really quickly, so that the offense is not looking dysfunctional and discombobulated. But Trey Owens is going to be somebody to watch. I'm telling you, he could end up having a great spring game, and people are like, man, this kid can really play, because he can. He can really play. I'll throw out there also, I'm hearing now that these DBs are starting to trend in the right direction. So I'll go with somebody to watch that we haven't talked enough about is Gavin Holmes. I'm hearing Gavin Holmes is getting a lot of love. He's getting first team reps in the rotation. I don't know if he's going to push Terrence Brooks or not, but it could be these coaches believe they got 3 corners that are essentially starting caliber corners from. And I want to see how much they use Gavin Holmes along across from Malik Muhammad with Terrence Brooks. If they like Jalen Gilmore, they might even decide Jadae Barron. They can move him around more and decide they got 4 corners they can rotate on the outside depending on the matchup. So that's supposed to be a strength. Those really good wide receivers going up against a secondary that should be a strength. That matchup I cannot wait to watch. That should really be worth the price of admission in the spring game. Especially because Sark's we're not gonna see a lot of advanced schemes, guys. You're not gonna see him go deep into his bag of creativity and the plays he's been working on. We just gonna see concepts. And one of the concepts you're gonna see is just the deep ball. Sark loves to bring out the deep ball in the spring game because they ain't got nothing to lose. Nobody cares about it. He wants to work on it. And he knows it's good for the DBs to work on it. It's good for his wide receivers and the confidence of his quarterbacks. So I guarantee you, what's your over-under how many deep balls going to be thrown, CJ, in the spring game? I would say
completed might be a little different, but thrown, I bet we see at least 8 or 9 between the three combined.
I would say close to 10. You might get close to 10 bombs, just chunking it deep. Just Sark, because I think Sark wants to bring it back, guys. He wants the deep ball. He just couldn't. It's just not a strength of Quinn's, and I think he wants to prove that it is something that Quinn's improved on and something they're going to bring back into the offense this year. So I wouldn't doubt if you start to see it early and often in the spring game, the deep ball. So those are a couple of things I think we're looking forward to seeing. Any other predictions potentially in the spring game that you guys are predicting that you're going to see this weekend?
Well, one thing, it's not necessarily a prediction, but if you can get out of this, health-wise, very clean, it's been a very successful spring season for you. Texas has been very fortunate thus far, only a few dings. DJ Campbell got a little nicked up. Malik Muhammad had a hamstring. Both figure to be active for the spring game this weekend. That's the big thing. It's great to go see, just what these guys can do on the field. But at the end of the day, the prize of the football year starts in August. And I think that's where you really have to get these guys, geared up for. You mentioned only seeing 2 or 3 series with your starting group. Keep them healthy. Let them go put on a show for a series or 2 and make sure you get into summer conditioning ready to rock and roll. That'd be big for me, especially going into the SEC. The other thing real quick is we've seen it in the comments here a little bit. I think Ryan Wingo is going to have a play or two that make you say, wow. And I think Sarkisian is going to scheme a way to get the ball in his hands early and often to kind of showcase him in front of the Texas faithful.
Yeah, we had the same conversation about Ryan Wingo that we had earlier about Malik Muhammad. And I believe we ended up with Ryan Wingo as the best freshman receiver Texas has had since Roy Williams. I think we went all the way back to my time. And I think we respectfully went back there and nobody disagreed. Now, in terms of these freshmen, like physical tools and all that put together, the GOAT, of course, is still Jordan Shipley. That's fam right there. But in terms of when they stepped on campus, physical tools and just the combination of them, we just hadn't seen anything like that since a guy like Roy Williams. So Ryan Wingo is definitely he's turning a lot of heads. It's going to be hard to not at least sprinkle him into the rotation a little bit there if you are Coach Sark. So we expect the wide receiver rotation to expand. It's also one of the hot topics around the season. All right, let's get to some of the questions. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I just had one question for you guys. I'm still in a little bit intrigued with Arch Manning and how his development has been coming along. Can he have a spring game and be human? You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to hear a loud roar when he goes in the game, especially when he does something good. But have we put too much pressure on him? And are we going to allow him to develop? And are we going to allow him to grow and make mistakes as a quarterback? I know the coaches will, but as a fan base, we're tough now. We're tough on quarterbacks at Texas.
Yeah. It's true.
I mean, we have very high expectations, and we've had our heart broke for so many years that now we're like, okay. And then the kind of career Quinn is having, and then waiting in the wings is arguably probably the greatest quarterback name in the history of the sport. Can he be human? What do you guys think?
I love that. Right where you put that. Can he be human? And will the Longhorn fans forgive him for being human? Right. I think he knows. I think he naturally is kind of programmed to deal with pressure because he's with the first family of football. So I don't think it'll bother him, and I don't think it'll affect him the same as it does other quarterbacks. But Longhorn fans can be tough, even on celebrity quarterbacks. I played with one of them, Chris Sims, and yeah, when you don't perform up to the expectation level, they don't necessarily care who your dad.
Yeah, the hype. Well, the hype level is all.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily the expectation. It's the hype level.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly. And
I mean, having grounded expectations, realistic expectations, and hype are two totally different things, man. And the hype is what worries me. And I'm not worried about him. I think you're right, Rod. I think he's very very secure in who he is as a person. He knows what his goals are, and he knows what he has to do to get there. But can we as a fan base be patient? And he threw a pick six the other day, I guess. Did he throw an interception? Well, I know he threw an interception. I don't know that it was a pick six, but
no, the interception to Malik Muhammad was thrown by Arch. The thing for me, Coach, and I wanted to double up on that is, yeah, I think Texas fans will have a little bit more leniency for their own than what you'll see from the national media pundits, which to me, after seeing what happened a year ago where he was essentially running for his life, that was a little bit more of what we heard a little bit this past week, and when it wasn't his cleanest day throwing the football. What will Sarkisian do to get him behind the first team unit? Will you get to see a drive or two with Arch Manning, who needs to be ready just in case Quinn's gotten injured the last 2 seasons, needs to be ready to play meaningful football early next year, just in case. But if you do see him in that first group unit behind that offensive line on Saturday, that's really where you can start taking clear judgments from what kind of prospect he is at the moment and moving forward. Of course, he has been under duress more so than not with Colin Simmons and Trey Moore coming off the edge against that second offensive line group. So that's my hope. That's one of the things that I want to see. Maybe the first drive of the second half or whatever you want to call it, it's Arch Manning out there with the first group just to get an idea of what he can do with a clean pocket.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. And he can't escape it, though, Coach. I will say I agree with you, but no matter where he goes, the hype is going to follow him. The hype train, it all comes with him. That's just part of the show. But here at Texas, I will admit everything's magnified. Here at Texas, everything's bigger, including the pressure and the hype. All right, real quick, let's get to some of these questions, and then we'll hit these lines. There's some Vegas lines about where players will be drafted specifically. Yeah, you can bet on anything. We'll see if my man CJ and Coach, they agree with these betting lines. Hit some of these questions really quick, though. There's some really good ones in here. At AJJ_sports, do you guys think Sark should get another offensive coordinator like what Ohio State did with Chip Kelly? And I believe that Ryan Day's giving up the play calling to the Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's going to call the plays, not just be the offensive coordinator. That's never going to happen with Sark, I don't think. I don't think it ever happens. If it does happen, it's down the line. It's after he has failed multiple times to break through, kind of how Ryan Day has, and then that'll be the option that he chooses. I got to do something. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I think, say Texas gets to the national title game or gets deep into the playoffs 2-3 years and can't break through, and maybe even if it's not because of the offense, maybe it's because of defense or game management or something else. The argument would be Sark's distracted by just calling plays and being a play caller and play caller and head coach, and that maybe he should delegate those duties. So I think that's how it happened. But if Texas just continues to win and have success, and they do break through and win championships and win a national championship, and they go further and further each year, that won't happen because there will be no need for it in Sark's eyes.
Yeah, not yet is Texas ready to take the Mike McCarthy route of, oh, well, my job's on the line. Let me relieve myself of play calling duties, give it to the offensive coordinator. We don't succeed that year. Well, let me fire the offensive coordinator. We don't succeed that year. Well, let me just take back play calling duties and continue that cycle. We saw Jimbo Fisher do it a year ago. Yep. Now, Ryan Day is kind of feeling that heat. He started that process now. I think we're a ways away for Sarkisian to even, consider that at the moment. I think Texas will be just fine.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Coach, you got thoughts on that? I mean, every coach can't do it. Be an effective head coach and also call the plays. It is tough. It is hard. I don't even know how the ones that are good at it do it. It's a special breed, and Sark considers him one of those guys that has to be in a special breed. I don't think Sark will ever relinquish the play calling. I think if he can't necessarily win that way, I would hope that he would make the adjustment. But I think that's something Sark may end up, willing to die on that hill potentially.
I want to throw this out there for you to consider, for everybody listening to consider. It has a lot to do with, as I think you alluded to, Rod, the makeup of the head coach. Sark is laid back. He's even keel. You look at Ryan Day, you look at Jimbo Fisher, they're more of a fiery type guys. I mean, they're more emotional. You'll see them getting after guys. You'll see them, and plus Ohio State is got to be one of the toughest places in the country with all the outside noise, because they're the only, they're the school in that part of the country. It's them in Michigan, and there's always celebrities around there. There's always people that want to be involved. Nothing can happen there that's not magnified, just like it is here. I would think USC is another situation where you have Lincoln Riley seems to be fairly level. I don't think he's as cool a cat as Sark is on the sidelines, but do you think it could be the personality and the makeup of the coach that he could eventually be burning his candle at both ends and become ineffective as a play caller?
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, exactly. I'm glad you said that, Coach. I just think, it's maybe a personality type thing, and Sark wants to be in control of it. That's why he even talks about behind the scenes. He's got his fingers and hands in everything.
Yep.
Mac likes to delegate a lot of things. Sark, he delegates, trusts his coaches, but he also wants to be involved. Intimately involved with whatever that phase is, whatever that group is, that coaching position, and even with the wide receivers, he's heavily involved. So I think that's kind of Sark's nature right now. And maybe that's until he wins the big one. Maybe right now he just doesn't trust that anybody can do it without him. Inputting exactly how he wants it done, and maybe later on, once he has perfected the process, maybe he changes as a coach. Here's a question from Big Hulk 24. He says, are they getting the helmets with audio? Now, I assume he's referring to the spring game. I don't know. I do not know, CJ. Do we know if they are using the headset communicate? We know they've done it in practice, offensively at least. They haven't done it on defense in practice. Do we know if they're able to use it in the spring game? I assume they can, but will they?
You absolutely can. We saw Florida use this weekend with DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz running the Florida offense using the headset communication when you have to duck down, close your ear holes. I guess the swamp was super loud with all 5,000 fans out there, but they will have access to it. I'm not sure that they'll use it. Texas has sparingly kind of jumped back and forth between using the helmet communication in practice with Quinn Ewers and the signs. Of course, the signs won't go away with the Texas offense. There is kind of that debate right now. What's faster? What's preferable for Quinn Ewers, for Jake Majors up front to get the call for the offensive line, and Sarkisian? We know the offense has used it in practice. So far, we don't know that the defense has used it. We asked Anthony Hill if he's the guy that will be in charge. He said, I haven't had it so far. I would love to be that guy. I'd love that responsibility to show that the coaches put that faith in me. So far, they've not done it. Will they? I'm sure. But right now, I don't expect to see helmet communication for the defense on the spring game. The offense, I'm sure we'll get a series or so with it going.
Yep. All right. Next question here. Daniel Lavelle, with 3 already in the portal, what do you think of over under on 10 guys going in the portal going in? I don't know if we'll get that many, Coach.
Feels high.
Really?
That feels high.
Yeah, I think we're low. What are your thoughts, guys, about how many guys that we'll get in this transfer portal window? I'm thinking you'll get 6, maybe 5 to 6 when it's all said and done. That seems like a low number, but I'm trying to go through the roster and see what guys may be discouraged in their path to play. And the crazy thing is, because it's the rotations on defense, they have actually kept that path to play open for a lot of guys, right? Because they like to rotate. Maybe that's one of the geniuses behind rotating. Hey, more guys play, more guys believe they're invested in the season and in the team. But I say 5 to 6. What about you, Coach?
7.
I like that. 7.
I'm saying 7. I'm saying after the spring game and the portal's open, some guys will, they won't bail till after the spring game, which I think is, it all depends on. I know guys want to be they want coaches to know, and I'm sure behind the scenes they may be, as you said a while ago, Rod, or CJ, I think it's Rod, getting word out to guys on a certain team you're interested in going to or whatever. But it's a distraction to the team before the spring game. Not that it's a huge deal, but I'm going to say 7. I think we'll have maybe 3 after the spring game or coming up between now and then.
Here's a question from.
You don't want to be late to the party, right?
No, you don't. Hey.
You don't want everybody to snag their guys, and then you wait, until after your spring game. Now that I've thought it through, I can see that they better get it out now, or they may be left out without a date.
Coach, you want to set the market, right? You don't want to be the one reacting to it.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Yeah,
that's the other part of it too.
Yeah, you're right.
Now the transfer portal is interesting because I know when you're in the transfer portal now, you can check a box. Basically, do not communicate. They basically already know. Mind. Yep. Okay, how would they already know if tampering isn't legal?
Rod, don't ask that question.
What the hell? That's so weird. It's like, hold up. So it's like the NFL has the legal tampering period. It's like, how would they know where they're going unless they're in the portal where teams can communicate with them? Other than that, how do they know unless they're tampering? It's so weird. They basically they've admitted that tampering is happening. They added it to the transfer portal. Love it.
You hit the nail on the head, man. They know guys that either they were recruited with, they met him in recruiting, or they played high school ball with him, or they met him at camps or an all-star game or something. Yeah. They're communicating. Trust me. They're communicating through a player that they have a previous relationship with.
Yeah. Yep. I guess technically that's not tampering. All right. One more question, and then we'll get ready to get out of here. My man, CV, what will the attendance at the spring game be? Everyone says it'll be the biggest crowd in a very long time. That's a great question, CV. Texas football hadn't been this good in a really long time. The expectations hadn't been this high in a really long time. Coach, you've been around a long time. When was the last time Texas had a big showing for a spring game? I remember I think they had like 46,000 for 2013. I can't remember the latest attendance numbers, but there's definitely hadn't been this much hype surrounding the program in a really long time.
Yeah, I think the 2008 or 2009 spring was pretty good. Was a pretty good one coming off of that, big win over Ohio State. Out at the what bowl was that?
The Ohio State game.
No, in Tempe.
Yeah.
Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll get over 50,000. There's always a lot of hype, but when it comes down to it, it's going to depend on the weather and some other stuff. But I'd say I would set the over under at 50. Oh, and that's a lot for a spring game.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Really, that's a big number. But I would say CDC he's hyped up, right? The Bevo Boulevard, and then you got the concerts. So I'll admit it's more of a extravaganza than it used to be. Like now, it actually is an event, and it starts at 9 a.m. They'll start the festivities, and then they'll go and they'll probably have a concert of some sort. So I will admit, CDC, he's a man of the people, and he's made things that are extremely fan friendly down there for Texas games. All right, before we get out of here, let's give another shout out to our wonderful sponsor, our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Flat Creek, folks, just won 11 awards in 30 days, including double gold Grand Reserve and Texas Grand Reserve at the Houston Rodeo. Flat Creek Estate Winery is raking in awards, and it's just a few minutes from the heart of Austin, Texas. Select bottles of the wines by Flat Creek Estate are now available at your local specs, so now you can get a taste of what they're all about. Flat Creek Estate is also a gorgeous venue hosting events for the whole family all spring long. Check out their website for wine tastings, chef dinners, and even make reservations to visit the property for Mother's Day coming up. Eat, drink, and be awesome at Flat Creek Estate. For more information, please visit flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. As a matter of fact, I'll be visiting Flat Creek Estate later on this week. I'll give you guys my official recommendation, but I'm going there to see it because I'm really excited and I want to make some plans.
You gonna have you need a designated driver?
No. I'm not going there to like drink up a lot. I'm actually just going to visit. I'm trying to set up some future plans. You know what I mean? I got some future. I'm trying to for me and wifey, but I'm gonna go out there and visit the grounds. I'm gonna go see what it's all about. Take a tour of Flat Creek Estate. So I'll let you guys know. But I'm really excited about that. Yeah. I did. Oh no. I will need a designated driver when I go there to party and hang out at Flat Creek. Now I'm just going there to visit this time. All right.
Okay.
So I'm not going I'm going in the middle of the day. It's gonna be a work day. I got stuff to do, so I can't just it's gonna be
It's
tough.
an unofficial visit. That's what we'll call it.
Unofficial.
There you go, CJ. It's unofficial. There you go. Think about unofficial to Flat Creek. Also, we want to thank our good friends at the Autograph app. So, folks, we're pumped, of course, for the game in Ann Arbor. Would you like a chance to win $4 tickets to the big game and to the big house this fall against Michigan in honor of our 4 national championships, hopefully getting 5 of those. But that's a different discussion for a later date. The tickets are retailing for about $600 plus, but you can get them for $4. And here's how. Our partner at Autograph is dropping a pair of tickets on April 18th at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time in their app. All you need to do is download the app and refer one friend successfully. That's all you got to do. And you have until April 18th, 11 a.m. to do it, and you'll be eligible for those $4 tickets to that Texas-Michigan game. For those that are new, Autograph is where real Longhorn fans get unreal rewards by bringing fan content and communities into one place. Autograph is the first app that recognizes and rewards fans, turning their passion into access and experiences. Co-founded by the GOAT Tom Brady on the belief that devotion should be rewarded and the future of fandom belongs to the fans. Scan to download the free Autograph app in the Apple App Store and use the referral code ONTexas. That's the referral code ONTexas, and join us and see where your fandom takes you. Hopefully, Ann Arbor this fall for a $4 ticket. Also, thank you to Autograph. Thank you to Flat Creek. Don't forget, you also have a chance to sign up to be an On Texas Football OG. OTFOG. Don't forget about that, all right? Because the family's growing. Yes, thank you very much, Matthew. Be an OTFOG for just $39.95 at ONTexasFootball.com. We encourage everybody in the family to become an OG. We got a lot of great things happening on the On Texas Football website, and it's just growing every day. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to all your support. It's growing every day, and it's a beautiful thing. The community, the family is looking like it's going to be something really, really special, and it's going to be a special season. So sign up at On Texas Football for the On Texas Football OG. And get those services. All right. Thanks to we'll table the discussion about the Vegas lines for where the guys will be drafted, because we still got some time before the NFL draft. So we'll discuss that coming up in the next show. Remember, next show coming up Thursday at 4:15 to about 5:30. It'll be myself, my man CJ Vogel, and Coach Shipley. Any last words for the people before we get out of here, guys?
Hey, I just hope it doesn't rain. Last year is a little hot for the spring game. This week it might look. You might see some rain clouds in the area on Saturday. Let's keep it clean. So, but I'll always take the cloud cover. That's for sure.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at the forecast at all. I just assumed it was going to be nice. Yeah, I think you'll be all right. I think you'll be all right when it comes to the rain. But we'll be out there at the spring game. There's no doubt about that. On Texas Football will be represented. We'll give you some more details about where you can catch La Familia and the On Texas Football community as we approach the spring game. Coach, any last words for the people?
Hey, man, just exciting to finally have a spring game here, and the culmination of not all of us been able to watch practice. I never did make it down to a practice, but it's a really exciting time, as you said, Rod. We've best we've been in a long, long time. Yeah. And let's just take it one step at a time and enjoy it. And the next time to do that is Saturday.
Yeah, no question about it. And like I said, we'll find ways for everybody to get together prior to the spring game. And, of course, we'll be right here on Texas Football after spring game. Thank you guys for all of your participation. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery. Thank you to the Autograph app. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. None of this would happen without Matthew. He's the only reason that it flows so smoothly. So we appreciate all his efforts and his energy as well. And thank you guys. Until next time, I'm in CB. Appreciate you. Until next time, folks. For Coach and for CJ and the On Texas Football family, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.